There was one rule of war that no serious military mind questioned. You do not stop tanks with ships. You might bombard a harbor. You might soften a beach. You might smash fixed fortifications before troops land. But once an armored division is moving, once steel is rolling inland, engines hot, guns loaded, ships are finished. They are blind. They are too far away. Their shells are too slow. Their fire is too imprecise. Their role is over. For decades, every major navy believed this. Every general staff taught it. Every war college wrote it into doctrine. Ships fight ships. Tanks fight tanks. Artillery supports infantry. And if an enemy lands on your coast, the solution is simple. You hit them before they unload. You hit them before they organize. You hit them while their backs are against the sea. This was not theory. This was proven history. In 1915 at Gallipoli, naval fire could not save the landing force. In 1942 at Dieppe, Allied troops were slaughtered when German armor counterattacked before the beachhead stabilized. In every amphibious failure, the same lesson repeated itself. The beach is a trap. The water behind you is an enemy. And armor arriving fast enough will push you back into the sea. German commanders believed this with religious certainty. They had written the book on mobile warfare. They had crushed Poland in weeks. They had smashed France in 6. They had watched British armor collapse under coordinated panzer attacks. And now, in the summer of 1943, they believed the Americans were walking directly into the same trap. The Allied invasion of Sicily, Operation Husky, was enormous, yes. But size meant nothing in the first 24 hours. Not if the counterattack came in time. Not if elite armor struck before artillery unloaded. Not if discipline and speed exploited chaos. From the German perspective, Sicily was not a fortress. It was a testing ground. And on the morning of July 11, 1943, Field Marshal Albert Kesselring believed the test was about to end in decisive German victory. The Americans had landed at Gela. Their infantry was exposed. Their tanks were still offshore. Their artillery was incomplete. And moving toward them, fast, was the Hermann Göring Panzer Division. 17 Tiger tanks. Over 200 armored vehicles. 4,000 hardened troops. This was the kind of counterattack German doctrine existed to deliver. Kesselring expected the Americans to break. He expected their beachhead to collapse. He expected to report to Berlin that the invasion had failed before noon. What he did not realize, what no German commander yet understood, was that the rules of war had already changed. Because on that morning in Sicily, ships were no longer fighting ships. They were hunting tanks. And Germany was about to discover, too late, that it had no answer. Field Marshal Albert Kesselring wakes before dawn on July 11, 1943, in his headquarters at Frascati, south of Rome. He is 57 years old. A veteran of the First World War. A Luftwaffe officer by origin, but a soldier by instinct. Unlike many German commanders, Kesselring is not a narrow specialist. He understands air power. He understands ground maneuver. And more importantly than either, he understands logistics. He knows what it takes to move armies. He knows what it takes to sustain them. He knows that wars are not won by courage alone, but by tonnage, fuel, ammunition, and time. This is why Berlin trusts him with the Mediterranean, Malta, North Africa, Italy, now Sicily. When reports of the Allied invasion arrive during the night of July 9th and early morning of July 10th, Kesselring does not panic. He studies numbers. 3,200 ships, 4,000 aircraft, 180,000 troops in the first wave. The scale is unprecedented, but scale does not equal success. Because amphibious warfare has a weakness. A window. A gap between landing and consolidation. And that gap is where German doctrine thrives. Kesselring remembers Dieppe. August 1942. British and Canadian troops smashed against fortified beaches. Armor counterattacked before artillery could deploy. The sea trapped the attackers. 9 hours later, the operation was over. That memory shapes everything he does next. Across southeastern Sicily, American forces have landed around the town of Gela. The 1st Infantry Division. Rangers. Paratroopers scattered by high winds. The airborne drop has gone poorly. Units are fragmented. Command and control is shaky. Reports describe confusion inland. This is exactly what a counterattack needs. Kesselring looks at his map. The Gela plain is open ground. Flat. Agricultural. Perfect tank country. And sitting north of that plain is one of Germany's most powerful formations. The Hermann Göring Panzer Division. This division is not symbolic. It is not ceremonial. It has been rebuilt after losses in North Africa into a first-rate armored force. Fanatically loyal, well-equipped, aggressively trained. Most importantly, it has Tigers. 17 Panzerkampfwagen 6 Tiger tanks. Each one weighs 57 tons. Each one carries 100 mm frontal armor. Each one mounts the 88 mm gun that has already earned a near-mythical reputation. No American tank on Sicily can penetrate it head-on. No American infantry weapon can stop it at range. Behind the Tigers roll Panzer IVs, Panzer IIIs, half-tracks, artillery engineers. Over 4,000 men. Over 200 vehicles. This is not a probing attack. This is a hammer. The plan is simple. Strike at dawn. Drive south. Break through the thin American perimeter. Reach the beaches before heavy weapons are ashore. Push the invaders into the sea. German reconnaissance confirms what Kesselring wants to hear. American artillery is incomplete. Most tanks are still aboard landing ships. Defensive lines extend only a few kilometers inland. At 6:15, the Hermann Göring Division begins moving. Engines roar to life. Tracks grind forward. Dust rises across the Gela plain. From Kesselring's perspective, this is doctrine unfolding exactly as designed. What he cannot see, what no German report has truly accounted for, is the force sitting offshore. Not transports. Not escorts. But a floating artillery system already aimed inland. And as the Tigers advance, American spotters are already talking into radios. Coordinates are being passed. Grids are being marked. The Americans are not waiting for tanks to arrive. They are bringing the artillery to shore, by sea. The moment of contact is approaching. And when it comes, German certainty is about to collide with something entirely new. 6:15 hours. July 11, 1943. The Hermann Göring Panzer Division begins to move. Engines ignite across the Gela plain. Diesel fumes mix with Sicilian dust. Tracks bite into dry earth still cool from night air. From inside a Tiger tank, the world is narrow and mechanical. Steel walls. Sweat. The smell of oil and cordite. Periscopes framing a landscape that looks deceptively peaceful. Vineyards. Low stone walls. Farmhouses catching the first light of dawn. This is supposed to be routine. The division has trained for this exact scenario. Break an amphibious landing before it hardens. Hit infantry before armor and artillery can organize. Drive them back into the sea. At 6:40, lead elements encounter the American perimeter. Rifle fire cracks. Machine guns chatter. American infantry fall back in bounds, exactly as doctrine dictates when facing armor without heavy weapons. Tiger crews feel no urgency. The 88 mm guns speak. Foxholes vanish in fountains of dirt and flame. American positions collapse under fire they cannot answer. For 90 minutes, everything confirms German expectations. The Tigers advance. The Americans give ground. The beach lies ahead. Then, at 9:10, the war changes. There is no warning. No whistling shells. No counter-battery fire to locate. Just impact. A 6-inch naval shell detonates among German vehicles with a violence no field artillery can match. The explosion does not punch a hole, it remakes terrain. Earth lifts. Steel folds. Air itself seems to slam sideways. 43 seconds earlier, that shell left the barrel of USS Boise, 20 kilometers offshore. The Germans do not know that yet. They only know something impossible has begun. Another salvo lands. Then another. The spacing is precise. The timing relentless. Tiger crews attempt to button up, but shockwaves punch through armor seams. Near misses shear tracks. Road wheels shatter. Turrets jam. A Panzer IV flips onto its side as the ground beneath it collapses. This is not artillery as German doctrine understands it. This is industrialized firepower. USS Savannah joins at 9:25. 15 6-inch guns add their voices. Each cruiser fires roughly 8 rounds per minute per gun. That means over 200 heavy shells per minute falling inland. Destroyers add 5-inch fire, faster, flatter trajectories. The Gela plain becomes a grid of explosions. German commanders radio frantically. They ask for air support. None comes. Allied fighters dominate the sky. They ask for artillery suppression. Impossible. The enemy is beyond the horizon. A Tiger commander orders his crew to reposition. He gets 10 meters before a near miss lifts the tank sideways. The tracks are gone. The turret still turns. The gun still works. But the tank is now a bunker, immobile, doomed. Another shell lands 20 meters away. The concussion kills the loader instantly. Fragments ricochet inside the fighting compartment like shrapnel in a closed box. The tank burns. At 9:45, German advance elements are no longer advancing. They are surviving. At 10 o'clock, 6 Tiger tanks are destroyed or disabled. At 10:20, ammunition trucks explode in chain reactions. At 10:40, infantry units scatter into ditches and olive groves, abandoning vehicles. The Americans on shore can barely believe what they are seeing. They are still under pressure. They are still short on armor. But every German push inland draws naval fire down on it like a hammer. Forward observers adjust corrections in calm voices. Add 200. Drop 50. Fire for effect. The sea answers instantly. For the Germans, this is warfare without counterplay. You cannot flank a ship you cannot reach. You cannot suppress a gun you cannot see. You cannot outmaneuver steel that arrives from beyond the horizon. At 11 o'clock, the Hermann Göring Division receives the order to withdraw. It is not tactical retreat. It is escape. 10 of 17 Tigers are gone. Hundreds of men are dead or wounded. The counterattack, Germany's best chance to crush the landing, has been annihilated in under 4 hours. And not by tanks. Not by aircraft. By ships. If you find this kind of forgotten military history, the moments where doctrine collapses and reality rewrites the rules, as fascinating as we do, we'd be honored if you hit that subscribe button. These stories of courage, shock, and innovation deserve to be remembered. And by subscribing, you help make sure they aren't forgotten. But the true horror for German command is only now becoming clear. This was not luck. This was systemic. Between 9:10 and 11 o'clock, Allied ships fire 3,700 naval shells inland. That is more artillery than most German divisions receive in an entire month. And the ships are not close. They are not vulnerable. They can continue firing all day. A single Brooklyn-class cruiser carries over 1,500 rounds of 6-inch ammunition. Ammo ships wait offshore with thousands more. This is not fire support. This is manufactured annihilation. Kesselring receives the full picture by early afternoon. He understands immediately. The Americans have erased the fundamental vulnerability of amphibious warfare. The beachhead is no longer fragile. It is protected by a moving wall of steel that cannot be overrun. This is not a tactical failure. It is a paradigm collapse. And the implications stretch far beyond Sicily. What they did not understand on July 11th was how permanent this moment would be. Gela is not an exception. It is a prototype. In the weeks that follow, German counterattacks across Sicily meet the same fate. Any armored movement within 25 kilometers of the coast becomes a death sentence. Naval gunfire turns terrain into denial zones. German commanders adapt, but adaptation only reduces losses. It cannot reverse outcomes. By July 22nd, Palermo falls. By August 5th, Catania. By August 17th, Messina. Kesselring executes a masterful evacuation, saving over 100,000 troops. But Sicily is lost. And more importantly, the method of defending coastlines with armor is dead. The lesson travels fast. Salerno, September 1943. German panzer counterattacks smashed by battleship fire. Anzio, January 1944. USS Brooklyn fires over 4,300 rounds in a single month. Normandy, June 1944. The 21st Panzer Division meets the same invisible wall. Germany adapts but cannot counter. Because the answer requires something Germany does not have. Shipyards. Fuel. Industrial depth. You cannot improvise a navy. You cannot conjure ammunition ships. You cannot outproduce an economy that treats war like manufacturing. The Allies have turned oceans into extensions of factories. And every coastline becomes vulnerable. Years later, survivors remember the sound. Not a single explosion. But a continuous tearing of the sky. American soldiers who should have been overrun lived because someone offshore adjusted a dial and pulled a lanyard. German tank crews, elite, brave, doomed, learned that armor means nothing when the enemy fights from beyond reach. Albert Kesselring spends the rest of the war building defensive lines in Italy. He never again attempts to throw an invasion back into the sea. Because he knows the truth now. Germany is not fighting armies. Germany is fighting production. And production does not panic. It does not retreat. It does not run out of ammunition. It simply keeps firing. If this story moved you, please hit that like button. Every click tells the algorithm this history is worth remembering. We're dedicated to rescuing these forgotten moments from silence. If you want to join us, subscribe and turn on notifications. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and tell us if someone in your family served. Thank you for ensuring that the men of Gela, on land and at sea, do not disappear into silence. They deserve to be remembered.